Change is coming, spirit is summoned. A different way, a brand new day. Embrace the change. Embrace the change. Embrace the change.
All right, how you doing? What's going on? This is going to be a little different. A slight twist to this episode. Got a guy by the name of Mark Shifflett standing by here. And he's going to tell us about how he was inspired by an episode of Embrace the Change I did last year, right about this time, right after Steve Pringle, who I worked with at Kink. Steve died last year at this time. And Mark's going to tell us what he did after listening to that episode and how it inspired him. It's been a crazy month. I was packing all kinds of things here into the end of 2020, the heralded year of 2020, where that has ended up leading us. It's got this hump factory. Might as well be a hump factory. Hemp factory. There's a hemp processing plant that's opened up a few blocks from our house in a light industrial zone, and they've just put this town through hell. Noisy, big industrial fans blowing 24 hours a day, and just the most god-awful smell you could ever imagine. It's a lovely combination of rotting meat, maybe a slight yeasty hint to it. Not good like bread or beer, but if you were brewing rotten meat, that's what it smells like. And they've been going nonstop for the last month and a half or so. Learning a lot of things because of this, though. It's the first time I've ever attended a city council meeting, so I'm kind of getting a feel for what city government's all about and the way the wheels turn, the slow, tedious, political, tap-dancey way that we try to scratch their backs if they are willing to scratch ours. So, yeah, finding out a little bit about the legal system, how that works. Kind of considered taking out a class action lawsuit on these folks. Can't afford it. Can't find a law firm that will work pro bono. So giving a little thought to maybe canvassing the neighborhood because this plant is right across the street from a school zone. There are neighborhoods and homes, mobile courts within breathing distance. I actually talked to somebody the other day on Facebook, made a Facebook friend, and the sounds of the fans and the smells are affecting him physically. He has actually had to go to the doctor to look into how these outside forces from this hemp processing plant are affecting his mental state of mind. It's a bad scene. So, yeah, we're cramming that into this year. And, of course, with the new president, it's a really good feeling now to know that we have somebody with a fully functioning adult brain sitting in the White House. That's awesome. So that'll be interesting to see where that takes us. And then, of course, we're trying to find a way to do the holidays. Thanksgiving. It's humorous to think that in order to have Thanksgiving dinner with my daughter, so my wife, daughter, and I have dinner together, I have to go and have somebody shove a Q-tip up into my brain, but seems to be the status quo in the year 2020, and I'm willing to pay the price. So, yeah, Mark Shifflett, mentioned him up top. Mark is someone that I met on Facebook, a Facebook friend, and he was also a former listener back in the days at Kink, the Dave and Sheila show. He was a morning show listener. And he reached out onto me on Facebook, and we have him here on the phone with us here today for this episode of Embrace the Change. How you doing, Mark?
Doing great, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I loved getting your message. This happened within 2 days after I got back home with the wildfires here in Oregon, and I really thought that my home was going to be gone. And I was so grateful that we had a house, and I was still in the honeymoon phase where I'd look at my walls and go, "Hello, walls, I love you. Hello, drum set, I'm so glad you're still here. Hello, tapestry I bought when I was 16. Thank you for still hanging on the wall." And I logged onto Facebook, and there was your message. Mark had apparently listened to this podcast and found one of the episodes that was published last year, right after Steve Pringle died. It's called Where Do We Go When We Die? And I thought it was so cool because, and I'll let you tell the story, you said that the podcast inspired you to write a song.
That is true. Well, Dave, I got to say this is a real honor for me, at least. I've been a big fan of you and Kink and where you used to work for years. So your podcast is great as well. So
thanks, man.
You bet. And well, the song hit a nerve, and I've listened to Nerve in the sense that where do we go when we die? I thought, well, this is be honest with you, it's right before the pandemic. It was like 4 months before the pandemic. I was a big fan of Pringle. I was a big fan of everybody you worked with, Sheila and everybody at Kink. So it did hit me that Pringle had passed. I mean,
yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, because I'm assuming you got into the business you were in as a music, just being passionate about music, period. So I've listened to radio stations and Kink for years in Portland. So to see someone like Pringle, who was such an icon in terms of what he did for the community, for blues and things like that, and just to scale back a little bit. I mean, I listened to your morning show with Sheila for years and things like that, and I think you get a sense of what people are about, what their their soul or their spirit is about. A lot of times for the morning show, otherwise they're just reading off, what the next act is and stuff like that. So you get to know these people. You get to know people like Les Sarnoff back in the day, and you get to know people like Pringle. So it hit hard as well.
I get it. Yeah.
So and then I listened to you, and it was a podcast that you just soloed. You just did by yourself, and some of the questions came up, and I've been writing a solo CD for the last year or so, and I had one or two songs with a couple melodies left, and I that inspired me to actually write the lyrics literally right after that podcast. I mean, started writing the lyrics on that.
Yeah, let me ask you about one of those lyrics. You write, "Once you're gone, it's okay." What did you mean by that?
That's the cycle of life. I mean, it's always, even though you are, it's going to be obviously people that you love are not going to like it. They're going to cry. Everybody's not going to be happy about that. But stuff happens, life happens. And so it's okay once you realize that's just the cycle of what happens. So, I mean, also I think you mentioned the fact of, how to die. I mean, how are you going to die? That is, I think that, the fear of death, and plus the fact that it could be something sudden. It could be something, you knew was going to happen. There's no blessing. I guess there are some blessings in the fact that you have a certain amount of time, but then there's other times where people just get the phone call that it's over for that person. So everybody goes through it.
Let me ask you about this lyric. We can have it both ways. What were you going for with that line?
Right. Kind of the lyric says, "Once you go away, there'll never be another," which would mean that there'll never be someone like you. And then, but if we stay, there'll always be a cover. Well, you always, life has its price, right? So you always have to pay to get in. You're part of this clubhouse. Let's play. Let's the Epicurious. Let's eat, drink, and be merry. But on the other side, there'll never be another one of you.
Well, I have to say, I love the song, and it really had a very Byrds feel. Who did that pedal steel? That's so tasty. That
gentleman's name is Jason Montgomery. He's a Portland icon and plays in a band, multitude of bands, but one locally is the Portland Country Underground at the Laurel Thirst. Great pedal steel player, great all-around musician. I got real lucky with that, with Jason and Mike Corkendall, who helped me arrange some of the songs. Just to give an idea what we did, we recorded that at Mike's studio in Southeast Portland, just me and a guitar. And then the pandemic hit. I was going to, mix them in and things like that. Then the pandemic hit, and I just started, there was so much time and things, we just started adding stuff to it. I wanted it stripped down, and I wanted it like an old folk record, like the old days when I grew up as a kid listening to Burl Ives and Pete Seeger and things like that. And it morphed into what we ended up doing, which was a little pedal steel, but very nuanced sounds by Mike and Jason. Been really happy with it.
Well, I love that you took pen to paper and that my podcast was part of you getting into the studio to create this. And isn't that the way music is now? This is out there, And who knows how many generations down the road someone's going to hear your song and ask themselves the same questions. I just think it's a great circle goes around kind of thing.
Well, thanks, Dave.
Let's give it a listen from the collection American Folk Songs. This is Mark Shifflett, and Once We Go Away.
Once we go away, there'll never be another. And yet if we stay, there'll always be a cover. We can have it both ways. Once you're gone, it's okay. Once we go away, we'll never have a number. And when the memories fade, you're only left with wonder. We can have it both ways. Once you're gone, it's okay. Once we go away, the fear washes down river. And yet if we stay, I wish we could have played forever. We can have it both ways. Once you're gone, it's okay. Once you're gone, it's okay. Once you're gone, it's okay.
Once We Go Away, the name of that song. That is Mark Shifflett from his newest album, American Folk Songs. We thank Mark for sharing that with us. Tune that was inspired by episode 13 of this podcast right here, Embrace the Change, which I did about a year ago, right around this time last year. We were dealing with Steve Pringle's death, and that song was inspired by an episode of the podcast. I have show notes for you, by the way, up on our homepage, davescottnow.com, if you want to head over to YouTube and listen to Mark's song. Or also a link to the entire album, American Folk Songs. Again, just go to davescottnow.com and check out the show notes. And that about does it for this short little episode of Embrace the Change. If we don't have a chance to talk before the holidays, I hope you enjoy. I hope you find a way to enjoy and stay safe at the same time. So, I think testing is a little easier. We have a drugstore here in Oregon, Rite Aid, and they've been very organized, unlike the federal government, about testing. So I'm sure there's probably something in your neck of the woods as well. So make sure you get tested, make sure you stay safe, and we'll all look forward to wrapping up this year 2020 and seeing what 2021 has in store for us. Hopefully a vaccine. Yeah, that'd be nice. See you next time.
Embrace the change, embrace the change.